Plans to block out the sun or to brighten clouds over the ocean might seem far-fetched and radical, something of fiction, but now, with the world entering a period of what the UN has called global boiling, these options suddenly seem like they could be reasonable decisions. Instead of cutting emissions, scientists and government are seriously considering the possibility of engineering climate itself. So joining us this morning with a closer look is the professor of environmental science and engineering at Harvard University, Dan Schrag. Welcome to Your Morning.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Nice to be here.
It seems strange to be talking with somebody from Harvard about plans to block out the sun, and there's a lot of ideas on the table to engineer the Earth's climate and the effects of that. But the one that stands out as being particularly viable is that idea of dimming the sun. What are some of the options that could work?
Well, this is an old idea. This isn't anything really new. People have been talking about this for more than 50 years. It's possible, at least in theory, to put reflective particles high up in the atmosphere, in the stratosphere. Could be sulfur, could be other compounds that would reflect a little bit of sunlight. We're not talking about a lot. We're talking about like 1 or 2% of the incoming solar radiation. And that would be enough to at least partially compensate for the greenhouse gases we've added to the atmosphere and cool the planet.
So a recent report out of the White House noted that solar radiation modification offers, quote, the possibility of cooling the planet significantly on a timescale of just a few years. So if governments are eyeing this idea, how soon could we potentially see something like this happen?
Well, I don't think we're ready to operationalize this just yet. There's a lot of questions that scientists still need to ask about what could go wrong. But I will say this, that all of the studies that have been done so far seem to suggest, at least from my reading of it, that this is a technique that would actually provide a huge amount of relief to people and to natural ecosystems around the world. Many people are going to suffer because of climate change, suffer dramatically. We've seen that this summer, you know, the heat all over the world. But if you think about South Asia, temperatures near 50 degrees Celsius for weeks, people are dying. And this is one possibility. Now, the big problem with this is who gets to control it? Who gets to decide whose hand is on the thermostat that controls the climate for the whole planet? That is a very complicated question.
Especially when you're talking about putting stuff into the air. I mean, you know, around the world, people were seeing the effects of the wildfires here in Canada earlier this summer and spring. So I'm also curious about logistically what it would take to deliver enough of that reflective material into the upper atmosphere in order for it to truly be effective. Because, you know, the way that wind patterns move and such, you know, you may be trying to cool off places in Asia, but then how does that affect us in North America?
Yeah, so anything we do would affect the whole world. The climate system is connected. And what we're talking about, when you talk about putting particles up high in the stratosphere, they mix and they will ultimately affect the whole world. You could adjust some things in different hemispheres, but for the most part, we're talking about a global action. And that's really important. There are many different ideas of how to do it. You could do it with airplanes. Some people have suggested putting up balloons with giant hoses to spray things into the stratosphere. From an engineering perspective, this isn't the obstacle. And from a cost perspective, this isn't really the obstacle. The real question is it appropriate to engineer the whole climate? What kind of responsibility does that give you? What sort of culpability and responsibility do you have to make sure that it goes well? It's a very serious thing. From my view, it's really a terrible idea. It just may be better than the alternative, which is letting climate change proceed.
And that says a lot about the position that we're in. You've got this terrible idea versus these terrible consequences that we're living with right now because of climate change. Dan Schrag, great to talk to you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.